Greetings from Nigeria. Thank you for joining in. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Thank you, Pascal, for joining in. Thank you, Colonial. If I did pronounce it wrong, I apologize. Thank you, Bob, for joining in. And if you just tune in, make sure that you share the information. There is a lot of things that we're going to be talking today. It's a very sad day in the people of Southern Cameroon. There is a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today. And if you have the opportunity, make sure you share the information, make sure you share the message. Thank you. Um, uh, uh, you all see, I want to thank all of you that are tuned in this morning. It's morning here. It may be afternoon in Europe. It may be what, depending what location you are. And if you are physically here in the United States, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you're in South America, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you are in Europe, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you are in Russia, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you are in Baghdad, like one of my brothers, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you are in ground zero, accept my sympathy and condolence for those that have been massacred today. If you are in South Africa, wherever you are, I want to thank you. Thank you for our brothers especially, and those that have been massacred today. We're going to be talking a lot more about those massacres. And if the world wasn't biased, it would have been a better place for us to have it, so that we are in a period of transition in this planet. We were delivered, we were born, and we grew up. We in a process of transitions. The Lord allocate resources for us to benefit, some through our own personal ingenuity, for our knowledge, our skills. But we have the world that has turned more of a blind towards indigenous, especially the world we expect them to do right. So I will be talking more and in the subsequent news. I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are tuning in. You see, when you see when the world turned a blind eye, you know, we've been talking about the United Nations, and that is why you see the leadership of the United Nations. It's not just the leadership of the United Nations, it's the leaders of the world. That they march majestically. One will expect them to walking towards a good, genuine, building a solid world for the majority of the world society. But unfortunately, in this case, it is not. So let's listen to the message that the people will expect them to do the right thing in this world. We expect them to do the right thing. But unfortunately, they are not. And that is why the massive massacre that is going on around the world is because people have failed. They have failed wholeheartedly. And that is why when I call about the United Nations, sometimes people wondering, it is because it's a scam at the United Nations. They have failed to acknowledge factual evidence and persuade that evidence. But because they turn to have their own personal interest, and that is why you find the massacre that is going around the world, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in South America, whether it's in Asia, wherever it is, it's because of a failed leadership, what we call the United Nations. The United Nations is led by scam, and that is why the massacre, because they have failed to acknowledge the truth and accept the truth. Because if they had acknowledged the truth without bias, there would not be any massacre. Let's listen to some of them.
Brussels, to Tokyo, to Singapore, it has been my highest honor to represent the United States abroad. Sovereign and highest aspiration. So together, let us choose a future of patriotism, prosperity, and pride. And let us come here to this place to stand for our people and their nation. Today I stand before the United Nations.
Of course. That is the world leaders. One will expect them to do just the right thing. But unfortunately, you all see, that is the United Nations General Assembly that is meeting and they're talking about the issues affecting the rest of the world. But one will expect them to do the right thing. But unfortunately, they are not. And this is what is going on. This is the United Nations. Let's listen to their message.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Before I proceed to that message, this is a lunatic. This is a lunatic that appointed by another lunatic called Francois Lefort. Francois Lefort is a regional delegate or United Nations representative to the Central African region. And he's been appointed by another lunatic at the helm of the United Nations called Antonio Guterres. But the fact is, none of them is fully aware the magnitude and the crisis in Southern Cameroon or in West Africa, either in South America or the rest of the world. Because when you have a lunatic at the helm of a United Nations that is giving instructions that are not incoherent, aware of the magnitude of the crisis, and that is what you see, what I am going to be talking in our subsequent program. But however, this is the United Nations that they know that the people of Southern Cameroon, now the Ambazonian, they were never a conquered territory. They were never a colonial territory. Had it been the world acknowledged fact that they have a document that in 1961, at the United Nations, they voted to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon as a distinctive nation and that they had the power to exist, then it would have been the document that should have been tabled in front of them and look forward. What relationship does it exist between the people of Southern Cameroon and the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon? Had the world has looked things objectively and look at the reality and understand the fact, then the massacre in Southern Cameroon would have prevented. But we have a dictatorship in the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon, that is led by a mentally challenged individual that is incoherent, that is mentally deranged. He's 86 years old, Pobia, of the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon. He's mentally challenged, he's mentally deranged. And however, the world is sitting, one would expect the world body to have energetic, mentally coherent people that is heading the United Nations, would have evaluated whether this guy, Pobia, is mentally coherent. But unfortunately, they are not. And that is why the massacre that we're going to be talking about now is going to be the prime focus. Let's look at what they said. You see, you listen to the statement he made. The Anglophone separatists. This is a clear fact that when people are incoherent, when people are heading an organization, that they lack mentally coherent understanding the content of the message that they are sending across. In 1961, the United Nations voted to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon as a distinctive nation. And United States is part of the membership that voted in 1961. And if the people of Southern Cameroon are being described as separatists, whom are they separate from? La Republique independent was voted in 1960. And so there are two separate identical nations. When did the United Nations vote to abolish the sovereignty of the people of Southern Cameroon? If the United Nations did vote to abolish the sovereignty of the people of Southern Cameroon, then when was that vote took place? And that the United Nations officials is describing the people of Southern Cameroon as a separatist. You see, that is why when you have people with mentally deranged at the helm of an organization, that is why the world is in chaos because of these individuals. The world is in chaos because of these individuals that are incoherent and understanding the magnitude of the word they use and the message they sent across the world. If in 1961, The United Nations voted to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon as a distinctive nation that must exist. And in 1960, the same body voted to recognize the Republic. When did the United Nations voted to abolish the people of Southern Cameroon that he is describing as the separatists? Whom are they separate from? If the United Nations voted, that is why when you have people at the helm of the United Nations that have mentally deranged, then the obvious outcome of that organization is deranged messages across the world. Let's listen to more.
We must remain alert and open our prevention report to ensure that the prevailing tension do not deteriorate in the context of the 2018 elections. The situation connected to the grievances of the population in the English-speaking region of the country is of particular concern. I have maintained close contact with the Cameroonian authorities and continue to underline the need for achieving an inclusive dialogue. While the government took a number of measures to address these grievances,
the government took a number of measures to address the grievances. There is one thing that is clean and clear. La Republique need to lead the Southern Cameroon and let the people of Southern Cameroon decide their future destiny. That is the right thing where a coherent and indigenous nations must do to recognize the people's self-determination, to recognize the people's self-identity, to recognize them as a people, that they can exist without La Republique du Cameroon. I am here to let the world to understand that the people of Southern Cameroon that are continually massacred by the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon. This is the world that one would expect them to do the right thing. But injustice is the right thing that the world look upon, rather than looking upon the right thing they can do for the people, for their freedom. And that is why you see the massacre that is going on, not only just in Southern Cameroon, but elsewhere in the world. Because the right people don't do the right thing. The right people don't do the right thing. They're going to the United Nations to celebrate their honor, their dressing, their attire, their suit. They're majestically because they have given opportunity, but not for the interest of the world peace. One will expect the United Nations that the purpose in which it was created, the purpose of the United Nations was to maintain world peace. But now we see the world peace sinking. The world peace is sinking because we have incoherent individuals at the helm of the United Nations that lack understanding the purpose in which it was created. And that is why the massacre continues in Southern Cameroon. Let's look at what happened today in Southern Cameroon. But before I go there, I want to advise viewers. Some of the content are very deplorable. Some of the content may not be very offensive, but however, I need to bring this attention to the world community. Give me a minute. All right, let's look at what happened. You know, this is the massacre that occurred today in southern Cameroon. This is the massacre of young boys, people of, I mean, it's painful when I see young boys of this nature. And this is what is happening this morning in southern Cameroon by the military wing of the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon. This is the massive massacre of young guys in southern Cameroon today by the military of the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroon. If one expects the world community to be, it is, you know, this is the truth about what one said, one insulted the call the United Nations. Because the United Nations is deplorable. It's deplorable. It is absolutely the worst organization. The purpose in which the United Nations was created has diminished its value. Has diminished its value. And those at the helm of the leadership, those at the helm of the leadership is absolutely deplorable. It doesn't take a single phone call to call member nations to look into what is the crisis. It takes 45 seconds to solve the problem in Southern Cameroon. That La Republique military that has no authority, no audacity to massacre these young children. And that is why you see massive exodus of young men looking outside, traveling to Europe, because they're looking for greener pasture. Because the world body has ignored the fundamental principle to acknowledge that they are responsible for the massive exodus of citizens, of civilians, called the migrants. Just imagine the United Nations has done it right. Just imagine they recognize that they had done something absolutely wrong. Then this massacre wouldn't have occurred. Let's go to the drum box and see why are they. This is deplorable. This is deplorable in the world stage. This is absolutely deplorable. This is absolutely deplorable. In the entire world, that one will expect them to look at justice. This is the massacre that is going on. You see, when the world you know, it is quite painful. It is quite painful that the young boys, how many of them have been massacred? In the past few years, in the past 2 years or so, young boys between the ages of 11 years to 40 or 50 years old has been deliberately massacred by the La Republique du Cameroon military that are currently stationed in southern Cameroon that have no legal authority. Imagine, in 1961, the United Nations voted to recognize the people of southern Cameroon as a people of self-identity. They recognized them. United Nations would have simply said, I recognize the people's wishes. I have no distinctive. They are seeking their own self-identity. And they have existed as people of self-determined, self-identity. And I have no option to recognize what their wishes. But United Nations has absolutely ignored United Nations has absolutely ignored because bribery and corruption is the mass is approved. It's a legitimate organization. That is why Antonio Guterres has bound even inner city press to even pass around where the United Nations office is. Let's go back to the drawing board.
Nations General Assembly. Today I stand before the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary.
That is the United Nations. That is the United Nations leadership. That one will expect them to be biased. One will expect them to do the right thing. One will expect them to be not injustice.
It has been my highest honor to represent the United States abroad. Sovereign and independent nations are the only vehicle where freedom has ever survived. And so we must protect our sovereignty and our cherished independence above all. Only when each of us does our part and contributes our share can we realize the UN's highest aspiration. So together, let us choose a future of patriotism, prosperity, and pride. And let us come here to this place to stand for our people and their nation.
When you look at the message that's been announced and you compare the differences, you realize that what is absolutely wrong with the world? What is absolutely wrong? What is absolutely wrong? It's simple. Call the leadership of the United Nations that there is a problem that is going on. Look at the drawing board and see what is exactly wrong. First, the Southern Cameroon. The Southern Cameroon is a distinctive nation that United Nations voted in 1961 here in the United States, here in New York, to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon as a distinctive. And in 1960, the previous years, the same body voted to recognize La Republique as a sovereign nation. So these are two identical nations. So they have never, in any circumstances, that the United Nations has voted to merge the two nations together. United Nations hasn't. So they still remain as the two identical nations that they happen to be living together, or in a simple, clear term, cohabiting. They're simply cohabiting. So the cohabiting relationship has given La Republique a mandate to control the people of Southern Cameroon, and that the massacre of the sons and daughters and children, women, men are inevitable. It's what has been in the deplorable state of the people of Southern Cameroon. Just imagine that when you get up and you look at your sons and daughters that are being languishing in this format, that have been deliberately massacred by La Republique du Cameroon. And one will wonder, because I still have that perception, who is La Republique for God, for Christ's sake? Who is La Republique? Can you give me a clear definition? Who is La Republique in Southern Cameroon? We have no identical relationship. Remember, the first prime minister of Southern Cameroon was Ndele. That was democratically elected by the people of Southern Cameroon. And he was actively recognized by the cabinet he appointed. And the British administrator at the Enugu House of Assembly recognized the interim government of the people of South Cameroon. And each time when there is a deliberation or meeting in the Enugu House of Assembly, our people recognize the actively member government of the South Cameroon. In John Fonja became the second prime minister elected by the people of Southern Cameroon, and we're still actively in the Enugu House of Assembly. We did not recognize this La Republique. La Republique was a distinctive nation on its own. The fact that we share a boundary with them, we did not have to recognize it. We were not part of them. We will never be with them. But however, Ngumjwa became the third prime minister that was elected by the people of Southern Cameroon. In 1965, he was the third prime minister elected by the sovereign people of Southern Cameroon, Ngumjwa. How did this massacre of La Republique begin to uproot who we are today? Because Ahidjo single-handedly in 1968 appointed Solomon Tendemuna. Ahidjo single-handedly in 1968 appointed Solomon Tendemuna as the prime minister. So we were elect our government. We will never believe that an appointed official to lead our government. We will never believe. We believe that people have the upper hand to decide who should be governing them, and not a single signature. And that's when the people's liberty began to uproot it by the terrorist government of La Republique. We have never, in a single-handedly, endorsed La Republique. When Ahidjo single-handedly appoint Tendemuna, that is when the uproot of our sovereignty began. And guess what happened next? Ngumjwa was assassinated by Ahidjo clan. Ngumjwa was assassinated. And that is where the uproot came. Till when this mentally deranged phobia in 1984 erased the people of Southern Cameroon's sovereignty and termed La Republique. And that is why the dubious United Nations officials has the audacity to stand and declare that the Anglophone separatists. Who are we separating from? When people are mentally deranged and are leading a United Nations office. And that is why he has the audacity to declare that the separatists, who are we separating from? Who are we separating from? When a United Nations representative that is mentally deranged, they're all similar with phobia, who cannot even know where his wife is. You can see how confused they are. Because the world is made up of people with brain death, brain deranged. And that is why the atrocity is going around the world. It's going around the world because we have the chaotic scene of the world community. Let's go further.
It happened today, the 5th of January. Wonderful.
This is a U.S. missionary, and you can see his children. He fell in love in the people of Southern Cameroon. He fell in love the cultural identity of the people of Southern Cameroon. And that is why he left all the glorious nations, the most prosperous nation on this planet, the United States. He chose to take his family to Southern Cameroon despite all various African continents. However, he chose Southern Cameroon as a distinctive place that he can take his family. But his family was assassinated by this very terrorist government of La Republique du Cameroon. He was assassinated by this terrorist government of La Republique du Cameroon. He was assassinated. One thing that I care much about is this document. One thing that I care so much about, because if United Nations simply recognize this short document of theirs, that in 1961, the same office presided over by the Secretary General at the United Nations voted overwhelmingly, 64 nations voted to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon, then we wouldn't have been in this state of massacre of the citizens and children of the people of Southern Cameroon. Had it been, they recognized this distinctive document. If they had recognized this distinctive document, that the people of Southern Cameroon had the right to existence. It's simple. Say, okay, this is what we recognize. Does the British government has any opposition for that? Because the British government inadvertently choose to take a document that pertains to the Southern Cameroon and hand over to La Republique du Cameroon, despite the fact that the Enugu House of Assembly did not have Nigeria. The Enugu House of Assembly in Nigeria did not have La Republique. They have the people of Southern Cameroon. And so therefore, by taking the document that pertains to the Southern Cameroon and hand over to an enemy of the Southern Cameroon and force them to an undefined wedding. That is why I am here to speak the injustice of the world community. The injustice of the world community. And that is the outcome of the massacre that is perpetrated by La Republique in the Southern Cameroon territory. Fellow United States citizens, you may be wondering why I shout. I shout because of the injustice that existed in this planet. A few days ago, one of my colleagues asked me, why are you always shouting? I am shouting because there is an injustice in this planet. And because of the injustice, my people are being killed. My people are being killed. They're killed because of injustice of this world. And it's a conquest here in the United States and in New York, where we have the United Nations that has turned blind eye and not to recognize their own documents. Before the massacre of today, that was the previous massacre that occurred in Southern Cameroon. This is in Bali. You all know Bali. You all know Bali. Bali is in the Southern Cameroon territory. And Bali, the sons and daughters, these are children that were massacred by La Republique military that are currently stationed in Southern Cameroon. We have no legal, La Republique has no legal authority in Southern Cameroon. For Christ's sake. La Republique has no legal authority. If La Republique leaves the Southern Cameroon, the people are able to govern. The people can govern without La Republique. The people can govern themselves. They don't need La Republique in order to decide their destiny. They don't need La Republique. La Republique need to go on their own and let the people live on their own and decide what is the best for the people of Southern Cameroon. We don't benefit from La Republique present. And we will never benefit from La Republique. We will never. We cannot be forced to have La Republique in our territory in which our people doesn't need them. Our people doesn't need them. That is why our people are massacred each day, each night. That was a U.S. diplomat, and he's still the diplomat at La Republique. He advocated. He even came here to the United States and stated the purpose in which the people of Southern Cameroon stood for, their self-determination. One will expect then the world community to acknowledge and say, I cherish the people of Southern Cameroon. They deserve their own self-destiny. They deserve their own identity. We do not, in any circumstances, need La Republique to be in our midst. We do not. We do not. We can live without La Republique. Let La Republique concentrate on their territory. La Republique is in our territory because France wants the oil to feed the French citizens. La Republique is persuaded because France is using La Republique to drain our oil to feed the French citizens. Our people are suffering. Our people are dying. because France want to benefit from our people. I am going to quote the quote that made by the Russian president, that the natural resources in Africa is more than the natural resources in Europe combined. But Europe is the most richest, but Africa is the most poorest, despite the fact that they have all the resources. That is the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, in his declaration messages. That is the Vladimir Putin, in his declaration messages, that the entire resources of Europe, that African resources are more than Europe combined, but yet they're the most the poorest, because the Europeans are using Africa for their own self-glorification against the wishes of the people. And that is why the British government knew that by giving a document to the people of Southern Cameroon, it's going to strengthen the people of Southern Cameroon. That is why he chose to give it to our enemy, La Republique. And that is why the British government remains silent. They can't even speak about it. They can't even talk about it. They can't. The British government, they can't even talk about it. They remain silent as though we are the animals that they must be slaughtered. We are the animals that they must be slaughtered. Africa are the animals that must be slaughtered. Injustice, injustice that has been the coherent document of these world nations. The spirit of the Lord shall harm those who are doing this atrocity. That's the U.S. ambassador that spoke against the injustice that's being perpetrated. Yet the world cannot recognize the truth. The people of Southern Cameroon is not a secessionist as prescribed. The people of Southern Cameroon are not secessionists. They must understand when and how they use that word, and they must use it rightly. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war. We are at war. That is it. For you, many of you who have seen this on my Facebook, you have seen it. Maybe you haven't taken time to look. What is the content? That is the Southern Cameroon police force. That to show to you that Southern Cameroon is a distinctive nation with its own police force. We will never be a part of La Republique, and we have been. And that is why we must fight. We must fight the injustice that the world community has declared upon us, the indigenous people of Southern Cameroon. We must stand for injustice. For those who don't know, that is the United Nations representative. That is the United Nations representative presenting to the neighboring country president that I recognize two distinctive nations. I recognize two distinctive nations, La Republique and the people of Southern Cameroon. And that is why two identical maps presented. United Nations has not recognized Southern Cameroon as a major. And if the United Nations representative is calling us the separatists, then I am kind of wondering, what is his mindset of that particular individual? Does he still deserve that position? Of course, you will agree with me that he should have been fired immediately. You will agree with me that the person should have been fired. He should have been fired right away. He should have been fired right away. He should have been fired right away. But yet, he's still on the job. He is still on the job. He's still on the job. That is Francois Lefort. Francois Lefort has the audacity to declare the people of Southern Cameroon as a separatist. Who is a separatist? If the United Nations, the office that supervises him, is showing the neighboring country president of La Republique that I recognize you as two identical nations. And if he does and present these two identical maps, then who is the separatist? Who is the separatist? The world that is corrupted, that is being led by the corrupted officials. The world is corrupted and being led by the corrupted officials that has turned a blind eye. And guess who is the sufferer? The innocent citizens. The innocent citizens are the one that are suffering. These are documents written by the U.S. Senate. They are addressed to the U.S. Secretary of State. One will expect the United States Secretary of State to act upon. I am asking this to fellow American citizens that I recognize and value United States. I am part of this country culture. I appreciate this country culture. But I am asking the U.S. citizens that when will the U.S. Secretary respond to the Senate letter? This is a letter that was sent to the U.S. Senate. If the U.S. Senate has written to recognize that there's a distinctive problem going on, and the U.S. Secretary is still haven't got a solution, he still haven't responded, and that is why the massacre of today is in addition to inaction of the U.S. Secretary of State. U.S. Secretary of State. If our people here in this are working in this great nation, they are contributing enormously for these great nations. But if the people cannot go to work, when they see massacre that is going on in their territory, when they see this massive massacre in those images, I think the United States has to do something. By simple, recognize that United States voted in 1961 and recognize the people of Southern Cameroon as the people of good faith and the people of distinctive. Simply recognize them and let's move forward. Let's establish a baseline so that we can move forward. I think this is the best thing that the United States government should do. Fellow brothers, I am pleading to the U.S. citizens. I am pleading to the U.S. government that do the right thing. Our people shouldn't be murdered by a terrorist government. Our people shouldn't be murdered by a terrorist government of Republique. Our people are being murdered, especially the young boys. The young boys are being killed indiscriminately. Imagine the Nigeria in the 1950s during the Jungle Funja ended. Imagine that the Nigerian authority should have invaded the people of Southern Cameroon. But they did not. They recognize us as a people of distinctive identity. But yet, today our people are being massacred constantly and continuously. Fellow people of these great nations, I love you. I believe that the United States can do more. United States should do more. United States should recognize the people of Southern Cameroon as a people of distinctive future. By doing so, it makes a changing environment for the people to survive. I mean, imagine women and children living in the forest. Some of the images that I'm going to show are deplorable. Democratic government in the entire West Africa before any other nation can. Southern Cameroon has amplified that. That is why Engel was elected and he handed over power to Jungle Funja. After Jungle Funja, the last prime minister that was democratically elected in Southern Cameroon was J. Dua, and that is the last prime minister of the elected people of Southern Cameroon that has genuinely elected by the people. Remember, in 1968, Ahidjo began to uproot the people of Southern Cameroon by secretly appoint Tende Muna, the Muna family that you all know, are the seller of the people of Southern Cameroon. When Ahidjo single-handedly appointed him as the prime minister, that is when the trouble spot began in the Southern Cameroon. As when I say the cruelty of La Republique is enormous. The cruelty of La Republique is enormous. This is La Republique military. You're gonna be the viewer, you are warned that the content may be deplorable to you, but I can assure you that I have to show it to the world community because those are things that they don't see. And that is why they remain adamantly ignorant of the truth. Who is La Republique in the terrorist government? Look at the military. See what happened. Take an eye. Look at the guy. That's the La Republique military. Look, watch. That's the military that's supposed to protect civilians. Watch. You saw what happened? Yes. Yes. That's action of La Republique military. That is deplorable. That is absolutely deplorable. Let's look again. This is another instances of La Republique military. Let's look another instances. These are women. These are women. They're simply in the forest. They're simply wandering. They simply don't have food for their children. What Christ's sake? La Republique. They lack human feeling. One will expect that he should have been immediately dethroned from there. But the world remained adamant. So long as France, the architects of determining who should be the head of African presidency, then they control every aspect of life of Africa. That is why I told a complete emancipation of Africa as a whole. A complete emancipation of Africa as a whole. All the 14 nations that have France, we need to unconditionally eliminate the CFA that is persisting, that attached Africa to France. Because so long as you have the CFA, you are a slave of the France community. And that is why Russian president has the right to declare that the economic mineral resources in Africa is more than Europe combined. But yet, they are the richest because they are exploiting Africa for their own self-glorification. That is why I am here bringing this attention to the world community and the citizens of this wonderful nation, that Africa now must be free. Fellow brothers and sisters, take a watch what happened to these women. Watch. Does that woman have a gun? Does that woman have an ammunition? What has that woman done with the children? Watch. She is just as simple as Mary Magdalene that delivered the child of Jesus Christ. Just watch her. It is painful to watch. It is absolutely painful to watch. Watch. That is La Republique. One will expect the world community, because everything is turned down because United Nations is controlled by France. European Union is the same mess. The same mess. Look that woman. Look that woman. Look, with a child behind. It is absolutely deplorable. It is absolutely deplorable. It is absolutely deplorable. Yes. And those guns are being given by French authority to this terrorist government of La Republique that they want to force to the people of Southern Cameroon. I am here to declare the people of Southern Cameroon shall never be part of La Republique. I declare, even the last person will survive. Are we going to stand and ignore the fact? Or are we going to do something? But I believe we can do something. Fellow brothers and sisters, fellow brothers, I know your brothers, especially those that have been killed. I stand with the people of Southern Cameroon. I stand with them with deep pain. I stand with them with feelings. I stand with them because I know they are doing the right thing. I know that the massacre is significantly painful to me and my fellow brothers elsewhere. Fellow brothers, we are at war. We will continue to expose the enemy till freedom shall come. We are together in this business. I want to take a moment to thank all of you. I wish you a happy and wonderful day. This is Funtal Daniel speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. I wish you all the rest of your day. God bless.